Awesemo.com live before lock PGA show. We are ready to go. WGC Mexico. It's a non-cut. It's not ideal, but it is a strong field. Coming off what, honestly, Genesis was awesome last week. What a great tournament.
Yeah, it really was. The course gave us everything we wanted. It kept tons of people in it. Adam Scott might have pulled away a little bit on Sunday, but it was one of the best tournaments, if not the best tournament of the year. By unfolding, Tiger Woods wasn't even a part of it, and you wouldn't have known that if you were watching coverage. However,
it's true. Coverage had some major issues. That was the only blemish, though.
Yeah, true.
On what was an awesome week. So we're ready to get moving. Like I said, this is WGC, a whole different element, and we're going to get into it. But as we've said the last couple of weeks, sponsor of the show, SuperDraft. We've told you guys about the multiplier mode. We're going to be talking about some strategy within there, but we have some exciting news tonight. There's a really cool promo that I'm going to let you talk about. You got it here, ready to go?
Yeah, I do. So this is a really good one that they're running just with us awesome guys. So all you got to do, you sign up for an account over at superdraft.io. You're going to get $10 using the promo code AWESEMO10. So $10 free just to start off. Then when you deposit $10 or more, you're going to get $20. Deposit $100 or more, you're going to get $30. So the long drive this week, which is 2K to first, which we'll be going over here in just a little bit. And I'll also recap last week's winner and talk about some strategy. 2K to first, 10K guaranteed. You're going to be able to get in a couple of lineups almost basically for free using the promo code AWESEMO10. So take advantage of that. It's a really fun format. I've had pretty good success with it the first 2 weeks, coming in the top 4 back-to-back weeks. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And yeah, we'll chat about it in a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Like we've talked about that new mode, it's unsolved. There's some different ways to get teams. You can get constructions that you can't get on the salary based sites, which is different. But, I'll say this, and I've said this on a couple of shows already. I still don't like non-cuts, but they've grown on me. This is a cool field. We get some guys we don't get a chance to roster too often towards the bottom. And of the big names, we have it's not no Tiger, but a lot of the big guys are here.
Yeah, sure is. And this course, it's its 4th year now that we've been going to Golf Day Chapultepec or Club Day Chapultepec, or probably going to buffer that name once or twice at least tonight. It's my kind of course, though. I got to be honest. It's a 7,400-yard course that's really played at 6,600 yards. I mean, those are my tees. Give me 6,600 yards all day long, and maybe I got a shot to break 80. But it's fun to see these guys play on it. And we still don't get winning scores of like minus 30 or anything, so it's still challenging. The greens are really small. There are a ton of wedge shots. Bubba Watson, I don't know if you saw my stat earlier or somebody else brought it up this week. Bubba Watson had 42 of 72 approach shots come from under 125 yards last year here. I mean, obviously he just hit driver everywhere he possibly could have. But it's fun. It's played at elevation. There are definitely some drivable par 4s if you take really aggressive routes. Like that second hole, it's basically a 400-yard par 4. But if you take an aggressive route, you can get on the green. Dustin Johnson, I think, had like 6 feet for eagle last year. So no cut, but fun. For me, at least, I like this one a lot more than the last one we had, HSBC.
Oh, definitely. Of the WGCs, this has a different feel. It's a new course relatively. At least we've had a couple years under our belt, but it's different. And I think different is good. We get a lot of the same type of layouts. This has got some things that you don't see. The elevation's wild. It's got some jungle to it. You can do some weird things. There's sprinklers in the woods. So we have a lot to get to with Chapultepec. And the elevation is something you're going to hear a lot tonight because I do think it's a big factor.
Yeah, it sure is. So before we go into the players, I got it up on the screen, the contest from SuperDraft last week. Sorry, I forgot to bring it up on my screen before we moved into the players. Just wanted to go over the strategy. Last week, the multiplier effect was 1.75 was the highest multiplier. So as you can see, the right-hand side of the screen was the winning lineup here. My lineup was about 6 points back. One of the things that I have found in a couple of weeks playing is you really don't need to roster the guys that are super expensive. And I think that's maybe the little bit of edge that we're seeing, not needing to roster Rory McIlroy because he only scored, and I'll have to go down pretty low. He only scored about 83 points. You see somebody like Mark Leishman, who came in 43rd, scored 92 points. So again, you want to focus on guys in the 1.3, 1.4 range that have high upside, that make a lot of birdies. This week, that 1.2, 1.25 range is really where we're focused, and nicely. So I'm just going to transition really quickly. The Awesemo SuperDraft rankings are free this week, and I can tell you that Mike Lorenzo Vera is at the top. So he is a 1.4 multiplier. And the highest for a multiplier for 1.25 is Sung J M. So we'll go over a few of those guys later, but wanted to bring those up right now while we were talking about the lineup review. Just a little bit of strategy for SuperDraft as we move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, listen, we're going to see it speaks with the WGC, the win equity up top. You don't see a lot of dark horse winners. I would be stunned if a middle tier guy, of course, can win. We know that, but I don't think we're going to be seeing like a first-time winner, a guy who doesn't play on the PGA Tour, something like that. So you're going to need one of the big guns no matter what type of game you're playing, and that's really the choices we have to make in these strong fields.
Definitely. And for me, Rory is starting to really separate himself up top. I mean, I don't think that's really a surprise to a lot of people, but at 11,500, I'm not scared off of him for sure. But I'm definitely more apt to go to Rory than I am DJ. I mean, you look at Rory's breadth of work over the last 10 or 11 starts, and the consistency, DJ doesn't even compare, really. Now, granted, DJ has a second place out in Saudi Arabia, a good finish last week. Should have been better at Pebble 2 weeks ago. It's just not within $500 of Rory for me right now.
Me neither. The course history for DJ, I mean, you can look at it and say, obviously, he does like this place. Yeah. But at the same time, that's going to inflate the ownership. It's going to inflate the price as it has. Rory, I'm not going to get into that. The guy that I want to ask you about is Justin Thomas. Now, he was awful last week. He's clearly in a buy low spot if you think that was just a true outlier. Do you have interest in him, or is it more you're going to pay up for Rory or go down to like Decky, Xander, Fleetwood types?
So Rory is definitely going to be the start. However, the balanced build approach, you mentioned a couple of guys that certainly I'm interested in. The thing about Thomas is since his win at the TOC, we've seen wildly inconsistent play. We saw the miscut, a third, a miscut. Even with Jon Rahm, going the next guy down, we've seen no top fives. So I think those two guys are in a show me place. I don't think either of them, going underweight, you're going to get crushed by them. But for me, they're both in a show me place. Hideki Matsuyama has a top five, last week. So I guess I'd rather take the $600, put it in my pocket, and go to Matsuyama if I wanted to get another one of these guys 10 plus K in. That's not to say I'm not going to play Justin Thomas. I'm actually going to stick with the theme that I've been doing most of the year this year when they've been head to head is playing Justin Thomas over Jon Rahm. Last week, you shouldn't have rostered either of them, right? I mean, that's kind of clear. But I guess this week is that's where I'm going to head. It looks like I'm going to get lower ownership there as well by 4 or 5%. So yes, I'm taking Thomas over Rahm, but half as much, maybe even a quarter as much as I'm taking Rory.
Yeah, I'm similar in that Rory's the guy. DJ's going to be squeezed for me to an extent just because I would rather go get Rory. The other guys, listen, they're world-class players. Like if JT gets it going, he's going to decimate a field. If Rahm gets it going, he can take apart any field. Decky did play really well after he should have missed the cut. Probably he should have made the cut easily. Then he honestly should have missed the cut.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options when we have strong fields like this. It's just about where do you want to allocate your shares. There's no right or wrong answer in my mind. I think Rory's the safest. DJ has the course history. The other two are in buy low spots, and then Decky got the price bump to sum it up.
I think Riv gives a little bit more of an opportunity to gain strokes around the green, just with their green complexes. I don't think he's going to have as much opportunity here to do that, and that's what carried him last week. As you can see on my screen, gaining almost 6 strokes for the 4 rounds. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that here. I just don't know if he has the capability. Greens are really small here comparatively. So at 10K, even though I have him above Rahm, I don't really think I'm going to have that much of him. I guess for me, why would I even pay? Now, Webb Simpson, this is a course where you'd say you really don't, doesn't seem to fit him, right? I mean, but he's going to be 20+% owned again. And you know what? I'm just going to keep fading him. And it crushed me in Arizona. Eventually, it's going to come back to me, right? Or us, I should say, because I think you're the same.
It's definitely us.
Yeah.
I don't know. Listen, Webb's a damn good player. He's not in my lineups, that's for sure. He hasn't lost strokes putting since Heritage, almost a full calendar year.
Oh God, that's insane.
Why not? I just can't pay this price tag for him. I would find the money for Decky. I briefly mentioned Xander, Fleetwood, Bryson, anybody else really. He's got some experience here, which I think is good. The results were middling. I don't really worry about that. It's not an indictment that Webb is not a good player. It's that he is overowned and overpriced. And that's basically no matter who you are, if you're overowned and overpriced, it's a really hard sell.
Totally agree. So there's just a couple of things. 8, 9 times out of 10. All right, actually, let me take that back. Last year, Webb was still playing good, right? He was going through a stretch. But at the British Open or the Open Championship, he was 7,400. The other 3 guys you just mentioned, Fleetwood, Schauffele, and DeChambeau, were all way higher than him. Now here, granted, he's on a great run of golf. He won in Arizona, obviously. Now he's more expensive than these guys. I'm not ready to pay it. I'm in the same camp as you. I'd rather have 9,800 in this field than Webb beat me. Next thing I got on my screen, who is the next price guy down on the salary list, is coming off his first PGA Tour win, but now has won 2 starts in a row. I've normally been in the camp of fade winners coming off of it, unless it's a rare case. Adam Scott may be that rare case, but I actually can't get there. I think that last week was emotional for him. It's his favorite course. Again, I'd just rather play the next 3 guys on the board. Honestly, that's what I would rather play the next 3 guys on the board with Scott coming off a win and high ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see where he is ultimately owned, because I do think a lot of people are going to have that kind of mindset. Yeah. But at the same time, I just don't really see it either. It's an opportunity cost. We've got Xander, good driver of the ball. Fleetwood was the runner-up here in 2017. Bryson played really well last week. He's a wild card, him with his irons. He needs to figure it out. He struggled mightily last year at this course, but now he's seen it. So Webb and Adam Scott are just not for me this week.
It's totally fair. Let's talk about Xander for a minute. I'm putting Xander in the camp of Jon Rahm right now, but Xander actually, I know he's got the miscut at the Farmers, but Xander's actually outplayed Jon Rahm this year. Head-to-head, he beat him at TOC. Last week, they were real close. So $9,400 to $1,200 discount. This is where I'm either going number 2 or I'm going number 1 this week. The approaches looked good. Not great, gained 3 strokes last week, so pretty good on the upper echelon. Off the tee has been very, very good this year. One of the best that we've probably seen on tour in the small sample size. Does that make you enough to buy in, or are you not quite ready for his game to get a win this year?
I mean, like I said, we're still in the range where these are all extremely talented guys. Yeah, this guy's got pedigree. He can perform in strong fields, good driver of the ball. No doubt about it. Now, again, we're getting to the salary range where these guys could be an aggressive second man in. They could be your first man in if you're going really balanced. And that kind of, to me, is appealing, but it also overlaps ownership when I kind of think about it, because there's a lot of ways that this lower 9K range fits a lot of different build types. I think they're all going to be very popular.
Yeah, and we'll go over a couple of those build types that you mentioned right after we talk about the next 2 guys, Fleetwood and DeChambeau, who we've mentioned in passing a couple of times. Talk about Tommy, though. Tommy's on a great stretch of golf. Played at the Nedbank in late November. He won that. Played the next week and came in second in that. Then he took quite a bit off, played the 2 tournaments out in the desert, came in second and 11th there. So the stretch of golf is really good. My hot take for the week, since we're talking about him, no, it's going to be about Tommy Fleetwood, but we'll go over it at the end, since that's when we do it. Yeah, I like Tommy Fleetwood. He's got second here in 2017. I know he might be a little bit rusty, but this guy's got to be ready.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a matter of time with him. I I like him quite a bit this week. We haven't seen him recently over here.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to make him sneaky by any stretch, but he's in an interesting sandwich between Xander and Bryson. And he does what you want. You know, he can get hot with the irons. He's seen the course multiple times. I think that's really important this week. He obviously can handle it. He was runner-up in 2017. Really just checks all the boxes. I like him for any format, cash, GPP, high stakes, low stakes, doesn't matter.
Agreed. Bryson gets the $1,100 price bump after a top three. He was seemed like it was probably the top play on both yours and my board last week. It was just a perfect situation for him. If he figures out the altitude this week, I really don't see any reason, take away the name, put a $9,000 price tag, match it up against the stats from last week, and you're fine paying it. But are you okay going right back to him $1,100 more expensive?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me as much specifically because it's Bryson, because he's someone that I bet frequently. He has a lot of win equity. So he's kind of binary because if you win the golf tournament, it doesn't really matter what you're priced at. You need to be in the lineup. If you crash and burn, it doesn't really matter if Bryson is 9K or 8K. You're toast. Yep. Especially in a non-cut. So for me, I don't mind it. You've got Usti right there. Well, I mean, he's the ultimate tourney play. We haven't really seen him, but I'm going to stick with Bryson. I think he's found something, and I think he'll handle the course a lot better than he did last year.
Yeah, that's maybe the one question that I would have about him is, why was he so bad last year at his approaches? And he even mentioned it. So likely he's got those dialed in and he went back to the drawing board. All right, so we're going to do just a little bit of pause in our analysis, and we're going to go do a couple of the lineup builds that we just mentioned, a couple of different ways that you can do it. So first, we're going to start with Rory, since he seems to be the top pick for both of us. And first, we'll start off with the balance build. So the next guy in, sounds like both of us kind of like Tommy Fleetwood this week. So now we're left with around 7,300, which for me, I can still work with that. There's a couple of guys below 6K that I'm interested in this week. Of course, in that low sevens, you're going to have to take at least one shot. So, I'll just take somebody like Matt Wallace, okay? I'm not too high on him. We'll talk about him later. But if you do dip into that low sixes, now you're back into that middling range of Kevin Kisner, Kevin Na, even in that mid 7,000 range. You know my theory on Kevin Na. You don't play him in no.
Chat was talking about Kevin Na. Chat is in rare form now. They got some names flying that we're gonna get to these guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, I might have to pull it up because I love some good names always. I'm always down for those. You can even throw Jazzy Jazz in there if you really want to.
Sure.
All right, now let's just go and see if you're really hell bent on Justin Thomas is going to have that bounce back after the miscut, just like he did earlier in the season. And we know that Rory's going to win, so it's going to be a Justin versus Rory on Sunday. This is where it gets aggressive. Have you tried this?
Not really. So I have some lineups that are like Rory Decky.
Okay.
That's about as so I'll say this, and chat just brought it up, and I'm not trying to indict the build. If you use Rory and DJ though, I'm telling you right now, you're going to play probably EVR, Carlos Ortiz, and a couple other guys, and you're going to be funneled.
You're going to be funneled. Yeah.
If you think it's a repeat, and it's going to be Rory over DJ or DJ over Rory, I guess you can build like that. I'm not super sold on that build. For me, I don't mind aggressive, but that's too aggressive.
So that leaves us 6,800. Like you said, you're going to be relying on that low 6, mid 6 range. Unless, of course, you want to go to the creative players and Zach Murray, who, we'll talk about at the end of this as my creative player. Yep, I love those names. There is one guy in the below 7K that I'd be totally comfortable with putting in my lineup each time here. But you're really hoping for 4 guys now below 7K to get in the top 15 or 20 if you're playing in the $10 GPP on DraftKings, right? I think we can say that if you're playing in like the $100 buy-in or the $200 single entry, yeah, sure, maybe you can get away with 4 guys outside of Rory DJ if they come 1-2, and they really do. Maybe you can get 4 guys in the top 30 and still do some good damage in those limited entry fields. But I think if you're trying to really win the 200K, I don't think you can do it with this build. I think it's really hard to find 4 guys that you're going to find in the top 15 under 7K this week.
There's just so many things that need to go right. Like, do you know what the chances are that Rory and DJ come 1-2?
Yeah,
it's incredibly minimal. Yeah. Even if you have the winner, if it's one of those two, if the other one doesn't play good, then everyone who played like Rory and Fleetwood or whoever comes in second is ahead of you massively. It's just a tough ask. Like I said, can it happen? Of course, but there's so many things that could go wrong, even if you get parts of that right, where it's not as effective as you think it would be.
So let's look at Xander, a Fleetwood, and a Hideki, which is, this is the difference of you get $7,100 per player and you get these 3 guys versus $6,800 per player if you go DJ Rory. So I think these types of builds will be pretty popular with, like I said, Xander, Tommy, and Hideki. You got $7,100 to spend. You get that one guy below 7K that you like. And then you can fill it in with some of these 7,200, 7,300 guys that we are more familiar with. Some of them are playing good. Some of them, Kurt Kitayama, those type that you can fill in a GPP lineup that, have a better chance than Zach Murray to get inside the top 15 or 20. Okay, so let's go back to the analysis. I think we've any other builds that you want me to put in there to showcase anything, or you think we covered the strong ones up here?
No, I think it's really going to be a matter of, all right, if you want to go stars and scrubs.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I got one more for you. Have you started any lineups like skipping Rory? That's the one question. Skipping Rory and DJ altogether and going straight down to Xander and Tommy.
Yeah, so that's the one other build I think you can explore if you want to take the risk and hope that those guys don't win.
Yeah,
you can have more firepower. You can take 2 or 3 guys in the low 9s, high 8s, and you'll have plenty of money to fill it out with, respectable guys at the bottom.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's go on back to let's talk about King Louie here for a little bit. He's got the history of questionable things happening. A couple of withdrawals that have crushed people, but by and large, he's had a pretty good season. He had that good stretch there during the fall swing of the European Tour. We haven't seen him over here much. I don't know if we've seen him over here yet in the calendar year. Not great history here either. 8,900. Are you buying in, or are you just putting course history aside and maybe some, haven't played in a while aside?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Louie, there's risk that comes with the territory because it's Louie. The one thing I'll say, his best thing is, his sweet swinging Louie. He's a great iron player. I worry about those guys, all of them, in an elevated place because that's their best part of their game. Yep. The thing I like about Usti, though, is he's not popular, so you don't have to you don't need to allocate a ton. He's overpriced. He hasn't been around. All those things take away from his ownership, and he's a guy that's very explosive. So I'll have some shares. I clearly like Bryson, Sergio, Casey. There's a lot of more reasonable options in that range if you want more safety.
Matt Kuchar looked like he was going to gain 9,600 strokes putting last week. Finally came back down to earth, and there were the regression set in, which was great. Paul Casey has not figured out Sunday, real bad this year. It is really bad. Do either of those 2 guys interest you? I mean, if you put their 2 games together, they would have won by 70 last week.
Yes,
what do you make?
True.
What do you make of these 2 guys, and where do you stand with them?
Well, I'm not playing Kuchar. That's not going to happen.
Not at 8,800, right?
Listen, I said this multiple times. I'll say it again. I had no problem playing Kuchar last week. I thought it was a fine play, but that is not how it was supposed to pay off. He gained 9.5 strokes putting. He lost off the tee and on the approach. That's just a lucky outcome. More power to that. Not going to play him. I think Paul Casey's completely fine. He couldn't get it going on the greens. Struck it. You mentioned it. He was fantastic tee to green. So I'll go right back to him. He's got good course history. Him and Sergio both seem to like this place. I have no problem with either of them.
Yeah, Sergio seems to light it up on these greens. Maybe he just – we know the only major Sergio's won is Augusta, of course. And these greens are fast. They're lightning quick. They're POA. They're undulating. So similar in Augusta to that nature. No surprise to see Sergio in the top 12 each of the 3 years here. coming off a week where he just couldn't get it going. I had him in my one good week-long lineup last week. I got pretty much crushed on the week-long, but got bailed out on Sunday, hitting a nice lineup for Showdown. But Sergio was in the one good lineup I had, and he looked like he was getting going. He'd get it to 2 under. He'd get it to 4 under for total, and then the bogey would come. And then he just wouldn't get it back to that 4 under number to climb. It was so bunched, that leaderboard, as you know, and he came in 37th, but he was like 2 or 3 shots out of the top 10. So, yeah, I do. I like Sergio. I think I saw enough last week where his off-the-tee game looks very good again, which is good. That's what we want to see. Does his price, though, going up $700, does that concern you? Or, again, just take the price tag out of it kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly concerns me. And as I mentioned before, he's more expensive and he's going to be more popular. People are going to go to Sergio here. That does concern me. But at the same time, you have to make some decisions, and what I do is when I use Sergio, I'm just cognizant of it. I try to do some things that are maybe a little different, building around him, and I work from there. But I do still like him this week.
Next guy on the list is definitely a hot topic here internally. At Osimo, we definitely have some people on opposite sides of the fence here.
Your boy.
He's my boy. He is. He's my new guy. But what's nice about this guy is that he's in a statistic that he's so good at that if he finds his putter, he will come close to winning. Now, my question to Tim and to you would be, yes, if we see him regress in his irons, obviously the play will go down. I think we can say that about most people, most of the game. We saw what happened to Jordan Spieth's game when you're a one-trick pony like that. But what do you think will be enough of a sample size to say, okay, maybe this guy is one of the best iron players in the world?
Yeah, I mean, that is a fair question. I guess for me, is he's already priced like he is. Like, if the answer is yes, I think this is where he is in a WGC.
Yep.
Maybe a little
15 on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
high owned. Yep.
Highly owned. So that's the problem I have is it's almost like a reverse free roll. If he is this good, this is where he belongs. If he's not, well, then he's wildly overowned and overpriced.
Yep.
Now we're coming to a course with altitude that he's never seen. That goes directly to his best feature. I think we both know if his irons are off, it's going to be problematic. Now, when he putts well, he's probably one of the best players in the world. I don't think you can really dispute that given what we've seen. So it's just really risk reward here at a course like this that is unique. I'm comfortable going elsewhere and hoping that the irons maybe aren't as crisp as we've seen, but it remains to be seen with all these guys. I know he's leading the pack. Hovland's beating up on the griots of the world in Puerto Rico. Scheffler's here. Wolf, I don't know what he's doing. There's a lot of guys that remains to be seen.
It is, and I think I think first off, the fact that they are a weekly discussion is a feat in and of itself. We just don't see it in golf. Like, for example, this next class of Korn Ferry guys that come out, or even call it the college seniors and juniors that are going to come out this year, none of them are going to be close to as good as any of the 4 guys you just mentioned. Like, I don't even know if we're going to get one that's even close to as good as Justin Suh, who hasn't even made a cut on the PGA Tour yet.
That guy, I feel bad.
If he doesn't make the cut this week in Puerto Rico, I will never play him again. I promise you. I'm never, ever going to play him.
No, he'll be taking up Frisbee golf if he can't make cuts on tour soon enough. But yeah, there's a lot of guys, like I said, we need to see more. But there's opportunities to infer. If you think you have a read on where this guy's going to be in a year, you can use that and try to buy early or sell high.
One thing I like about Morikawa that I think you can find a hitch in Hovland's swing. He's shown it. He's got like a weird like pump and go when he's trying to get extra distance. We know that Wolf's swing is unconventional. I'm not saying it's a bad swing. It's just unconventional. Morikawa has your old typical point A to point B golf swing. You look at his off the tee numbers and you see that he's not gaining a ton of strokes, but he's rarely losing stroke. It's because he is a one-trick pony off the tee. He's a left to right. He's a fader, and it's a small window where he hits the ball. That's what I like about it, and that's why I was drawn to him. That's why I was drawn to Cantlay. Same type of thing. It's just they have a pure golf swing. So for me, I think that the talent of this kid, we haven't quite seen it because he hasn't learned how to putt on tour yet. He just hasn't. I mean, if you look at all of his starts, the most that he's gained putting is his first start at Canada, where he gained, I think, 2.8, so close to 3 strokes putting. If he learns how to putt on tour, I do think he'll be top 15 in the world within the next 2 years.
I mean, again, and that's where it remains to be seen. If that's the case, then you may look back and maybe this was worth it. Yep. It's really, like I said, and I think we're both saying the same thing in the sense
similar things in opposite sides. Yeah.
Well, that too. And don't let the WGC Mexico define it. Like if he comes in 60th, that doesn't mean that he's not that player. And if he comes in 5th, obviously that's a stepping stone to him doing some of these things, but it's golf. There was a time when many guys were on can't miss, and then there were guys who were done and now they're back. It's very fluid.
Speaking about a guy that probably spent some time sending out some letters this week, if we know him at all, he was in the limelight for all the wrong reasons yet again. Patrick Reed is being dragged through the ringer here. Brooks Koepka going in on him. Peter Kostis today on the No Laying Up podcast saying that he's seen him cheat at least 5 times. I mean, it just gets worse and worse for him, but the guy still comes out and plays even when he's cheating.
Yeah, I mean, look at sports right now. If you apparently everybody's cheating out there, but yeah, Reed's always interesting to me.
What did I do?
You join the Astros. I don't know. He's a unique guy. Good crafty around the green, kind of brings it every week. Doesn't mind a strong field. It's hard to conceptually kind of grasp where he's at. I think his game is all over the place to an extent. Yeah. I like that. I play Reed more often than most. I think he fits unique builds. I pair him with Spieth a lot. Obviously, that has results on that's a whole different topic. But Reed is someone against the grain. I know people looked at Woodland. I actually like Reed over Woodland if I had to choose.
Yeah, what do you think's going on with Gary? You think we're setting into a regression, or is he just going through a rough patch and he'll get back to elite ball striking where he's gaining, 2.43 every round?
Probably. Honestly, I don't worry about him long term, but at the same time, he's in a little lull. We haven't seen him too much, but he hasn't played good.
Nope.
Again, no problem. It's a WGC. Like I said, these are good players. But for me, the risk is just a little too much. I don't know how many times Gary Woodland really smashes here.
Why do you think that is? With a course where, DJ's obviously done super well at, Gary 17th, 50th, and 38th. I mean, it's not great for a guy that now Gary and Dustin are not the same players. Gary's probably a little bit more on a distance accuracy combo than obviously DJ is just distance. Do you think it really just has to do that and he's just, not great with the angles and this isn't the course for him?
I mean, I don't know what to make of it. He has probably the most confusing stats of anyone. Now it's only 3 years, so it could be noisy, but in his first appearance here, he gained 6 strokes on the approach and he lost 4 putting. So you would assume he didn't like the greens, but he got the elevation right. The next 2 years, he lost 6 strokes on the approach and 4 strokes on the approach. I don't know what that really means. Obviously, the stats have been all over the map with him here. But it's not anything that I'm drawing too many conclusions for. So that has me pretty uninterested.
42 wedges in any tournament is incredible. I mean, I don't know if I'll find another tournament like that. Maybe 1, maybe 2. But Bubba Watson at 8,200 for that sheer fact alone has got to be of interest a little bit to you.
Yeah, I mean, Bubba, he was someone that I was super fortunate, missed the cut on the number. He was really popular last week. I managed to get away.
Yep.
It happens. To speak to just cuts, Decky makes it on the number, surges. Bubba misses on the number, obviously doesn't get the 36 holes on the weekend. I don't mind it. I don't think this is the best course for Bubba just because he's a very kind of a feel player, and I don't know how much that's going to help him when this is more, to me, of a technical course. But the price drop, burning everyone, those things are positives, even though it is ultimately, I don't think, a great fit.
Let's stay on the guys that should not have missed the cut, but did. Bandwagon 7,900. Sung J M missed right on the number after having a really good day. He ended up hurting a couple of my lineups. I'm good to go right back to him, but when this guy gets cold with his irons, it's almost like he stops trying with them. It just looks really bad when it goes south for him. Now, granted, it was the first time he had really lost significant shots against the field in quite some time on the approaches, but it's at least a little bit concerning.
Oh, it's definitely concerning. I mean, this guy, we know how much he plays. He makes a ton of cuts. He missed on the number. That's going to happen. When it's, 65 and ties, it's hard. But I do agree. When he gets a little off, it can be kind of troubling. And he's another one. I know he's not part of the Hovland group, but he's a guy that I'm interested to see where ultimately he ends up. We know he's talented, but there's a lot of talented guys, and he's someone. 7,900 is kind of appealing, but at the same time, I don't know exactly if I'd rather pay $100 and go get Fitzy, who I trust in majors. He's played in a ton of WGCs. Short hitter, but elevation, of course, length is not going to be a problem.
A week after a really good ball striking week, it seemed like way more people were ready to back Jordan Spieth than they should have been.
That's true.
And now he comes to this week. He's going to be the same ownership as he's been recently, 8 to 10%. I'm still not ready to buy into my 40% ownership. I have a standard set on Fantasy Cruncher when I go on to do it. First of all, he's the first guy that comes up. I did not put that there. That is Dave from Fantasy Cruncher. Talk to Dave about that. However, I have a nightmare mode set that was just coined by our buddy Coolers in chat. My nightmare mode means that I have an automatic lock on Jordan Spieth at 20%. That's what I roll out, whether I think he's going to play good or not, because I like to torture myself. With that being said, the putter's still not good. The game is all over the place. I really don't know what to make of this guy. I'm just going to play my normal 20% and move on. Honestly, I think that's all I have to say until later on in the cast, where I've got a couple of guys that I'm going to compare to him for relative purposes. But you want to bring up anything, or is that?
No, I mean, he's all over them. He gained 5 strokes around the green. He lost 5. This sums it up. He gained 5.2 strokes on the approach at Pebble, and then he lost 5 strokes on the approach at Genesis. I mean, that I do think anytime you have massive volatility, it's always a little interesting, because if you get it right, you can get it really right, but you're just you're grasping for straws, honestly, at this point.
8,100 for a guy that has gained something like 25 strokes on his approaches in his last 4 starts. Mark Leishman is real hot with the irons. Does that continue this week?
Yeah, he's a tricky one. Some of our members in our premium Slack have talked about him, and it's tough. He's cooking with the irons. The putter's all over the place. He got the win at Farmers. I don't mind it. Australians are reigning supreme these days. Again, though, I am sticking with a theme. Not that it's an instant cool down. I'm not saying that. But if you've just specifically been doing it with the irons, I think this is somewhat of a reset coming to an elevated course like this. Maybe I'm overthinking that, but I do worry about a guy who's doing it all. His around the green has been garbage. A little concern there, not going to lie.
Yeah, I think that's a viable argument. I think that maybe there's a little bit of skipness in this range anyway, especially playing 2 or 3 guys above here. So Abraham Answer was less than impressive last week, but actually still put up a decent number of points. He's $300 cheaper, sitting in this range as well, but it looks like he's going to get more ownership than last week. Looks like possibly double. So that makes me take him from a core play at a higher price to a fringe alternate play for me at a lower price but higher ownership. It just seems like to make sense to drop down into the Kurt Kitayamas of the world, who might be somewhat comparable in talent level.
Yeah, I'm not really there. This is where for me there's a massive dead range.
Yep.
There's guys you got RCB, Victor Perez's, Sneds can get crazy hot. But man, for me, 7,400 is the price that I want to talk about. You have Benny on, just had a baby. Congrats to him.
4 days ago, not just like 4 days ago, had a baby. He's here playing.
Yeah.
I love it. Dedication.
Good for him. He took a couple weeks off naturally.
Yeah.
Bern Wiesberger is here. Ty Hatton is here. Those are some names that I have some exposure to. We haven't seen Hatton in a while. I think it was a wrist. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I think
you're correct. It was definitely wrist surgery, and I'm out. And until I see,
that's scary.
So Dan Berger's up, and he's not in this field, so we don't have to worry about playing or not playing, debating that. What I'm bringing him up is he went through very similar surgery, and it took him a good couple of months to get fully back to the level of play that is Dan Berger, which is, I'll say, he's a top 125 FedEx Cup player. Like, he's going to make the playoffs. All right, I'll give you that now. But I'm nervous with Ty Hatton. This is a risk. This isn't, a deviated septum here from Patrick Cantlay. This isn't a broken toenail. This is a wrist injury, and this is what you do in golf. So I'm a little nervous. The price is right. Course history is fantastic. But with injuries, I'm okay with them beating me. I would rather just bet against them in the betting market and use that injury to my advantage, and I'm okay if they beat me there. That type of thing. I'm okay if they beat me in DFS as well.
Yeah, I take that too. And Wiesberger's another case. He had wrist, took him a while.
Wow.
He's back in business, but he struggled for a while there. Boy, this is where, talk about Kurt Kitayama. I mean, that's a guy that you've been on. He's an American. He plays over in Europe. Do you feel that some of the experience he's got on the PGA Tour maybe helps him in a spot like this at 7,200?
We finally saw a little bit of a breakthrough at Pebble. We did. That he showed up, and we saw the same game on the European Tour. We saw it finally translate to Pebble a little bit. We saw the off the tee just be phenomenal, which is what he's all about on the Euro Tour, gaining, over 2.5 strokes or close to it on the 2 rounds of Pebble. So, yeah, 7,200, I think it's a great buy point, especially if people are going to go to his running mate for Rookie of the Year last year on the Euro Tour, same price too, Bob McIntyre. I'll take Kurt Kitayama over McIntyre this week. McIntyre is coming off of a little bit of an injury as well. He had to withdraw from the first tournament. It's looked a little shaky. Now, I will have some McIntyre, but in a one-off, I'll take Kitayama over McIntyre this week.
Same. I'll take Kisner over both of them, though. I like Kisner. Can get wedges in his hand, can get crazy hot with the putter. He's won a WGC. Now, I know it was match play.
He's such a bulldog. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about him again this year. It's insane how good he is at it.
He just gets in zones. Now, no one here I feel good about. Let me ask you, though, because chat, like I said, and we respect chat, there's a lot of people who are braver than me and are going to Francesco.
What did I do?
I've been staying far away, and I've been fine with that. Obviously, he's going to make the cut here, but that's all. I mean, he's lost strokes everywhere. You're just banking on long-term form if you do that. I have absolutely no interest. More power to you if you think this is the buy low spot.
Yikes. Yikes.
I'd rather
it's so bad that I'm hoping that the people in chat are the only ones that are going to roster him.
He's going to be alone, yeah.
Yeah, because then I'll go 13% and get 4x the field and be okay with that. And if he beats me on if he ends up coming in 60th, that's fine. The approaches have not looked good, but the proximity numbers in important ranges this week look good. Small sample, very small sample. He's played 4 times this year. So it's a small sample, but we did have a pretty decent stretch over the fall swing on the Euro Tour. So I just think he's been real cold with the putter. And we know that he only relies on running hot with a putter. It's not like he gets hot and stays hot. No, he runs hot for a tournament. He gets there. He does wild things around the greens. He pisses Ben off, at least in the top 5 of golfers that piss Ben off. So if it's going to happen, it'll happen this week, but it may not matter for Ben as much because the ownership is going to be pretty low here.
No, exactly. And when you're talking about a guy of that caliber that's going to be really low owned, I mean, you can always justify that concept.
Yep.
But there's a lot of guys you can say that about. He's just not the one for me. There are other guys that I would rather take a pure flyer on.
So Scotty Scheffler seems to be pretty popular. 7,100 does seem like a good price. I wrote him up this week. I'm okay to go back in here because of the price. But now all of a sudden ownership keeps trending up. I'm not coming off of him, but I will say that I'm a little less excited as I was hoping I was going to get sub 10, and we're not. Looks like we're not going to get sub 10. But the sample size that we've seen this guy, he's very good with his wedges, and I think he's going to get a ton of them this week.
So do I. I like Scheffler. Obviously, I don't want him to be popular, but sometimes that's unavoidable.
Yeah.
A lot of this is risk tolerance. I'll say this, and you heard it here first. This could burn me. I think Sun Kang is going to be popular. I have absolutely no interest in him this week. He was so good last week with the irons. He putted great. I think this is a bad spot for him. I know a lot of people may look there. And I think when you talk about those aggressive builds, you have people who are going to roster with Sun Kang at the bottom. He's flat 7K if you want another option there. Personally, just not for me.
Yeah, I do see a lot of dark greens on here, which is obviously probably a reason a lot of people will go to him when they see that he's gained a lot off the tee recently. Not last week. The approaches last week were obviously incredible. I'm okay with him. I would rather go down to Sebastian Munoz this week. I think we're going to get lower ownership than Kang, and I think Munoz is pretty close. He's also really good. He was in the top 10 in approach proximity with wedges last year. This year, again, having a pretty good start from that 125 to 150 category. So I think Munoz is in a good spot, especially as a pivot to Kang if he's going to be higher owned.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys here. So this is where we get pretty wide open. You're going to have a lot of international guys. You're going to have Euro Tour, Sunshine Tour.
Let's just do a quick one here. I think it'll be a good way to get through these guys and give guys an indication of who we like. Let's rank the top 5 under 7K for you this week. Add some Euro Tour guys in if you'd like.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. So for me, EVR is the guy I feel most confident about.
You like a bounce back week for him?
I do. I think getting cut at the Genesis doesn't mean much of anything to me. I've seen him in majors. I've seen him in WGCs. I know his game. He's a pure ball striker. I think he plays just fine. So I'll start it off with him. What do you got for one of your more confident 6K guys?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that you and I definitely love on the Euro Tour. And while it's not been good this season, it's been consistent. And at 6,900, I've seen him give me top 10s against good fields. I've seen him give me top 5s against weak fields. So I'm going to buy into him in his first WGC. I think maybe it comes back to me, but I just like this guy's talent. I think Matthias Schwab has got enough talent to be priced, in the mid-7s in this field. So I think ultimately I'm going with that he is underpriced. This week, of course, he may not be, but that's how I feel, at least analyzing the field.
Yeah, it is shameful that I didn't say Schwab first. I love him. The one thing that is kind of not annoying because I got paid off at HSBC. The time to roster him in the WGC was the first one. He came out of nowhere. He came in 4th. I'm not saying he can't do it. It's one and done, but that was a good
probably his best finish ever as a pro.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like that was you got a big finish there from nowhere. I'll say the Megamind double pivot is to go to Christian Bezenhuizen, whatever.
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
Another South African, good form, playing really well. I don't mind him at 6,900. He would be in my top 5 as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember one of these guys. Was it Bezenhuizen that won last week when he played? He was playing. Yeah, he won the Dimensia tournament, 21st before that, 2nd before that. The form is undeniable. It is very good right now. I don't really care about the field that he's playing against. It's still he's winning golf tournaments, professional golf tournaments for that matter. Whereas the next guy that I want to talk about in conjunction is Jazz Janawatanan. And it's kind of similar. It's like he's playing great golf. It's not against great fields, but does it at least interest you? Now, granted, I got really sucked in at a guy that is 6,500 this week. I got so sucked in it earlier this year at the Sony Open to Shugo Imahara that I don't want this to be, another Shugo, but we've seen Jazz come in the top 10 at a major, so we know he's got game.
Yeah, I mean, Jazz is someone that I conceptually have a tough time with because – he plays against nobody. He's shown it at the biggest stage. Then he's got there's just a lot of room between what he did there and what he does on a week to week. It's not the worst name. Matt Wallace is a name that people are going to know. He's done it in a lot of tournaments. He's not playing great. That run has kind of regressed. But the guy we have to talk about, and I really want to hear your thoughts, is Carlos Ortiz.
Yeah.
A lot of people really like him. I think this is a god-awful spot. I'm not going to lie. Another really aggressive stand by me. Do you have interest? And I'm not saying that I hate it completely. I just don't think I can get leverage on what's going to be a popular Carlos Ortiz.
If he comes in at 10%,
I think he might be over that.
Man, if he does, like, I know Matt Wallace is out of form, but Matt Wallace is ranked 38th in the world, and Carlos Ortiz is ranked 150th. And there's a reason for that. There's just no way you could get me to play Carlos Ortiz. If a 10% Ortiz beats me this week, absolutely, so be it. I have to be fine with that. I would rather play Brendan Todd, who's going to be lower owned if I had to. But my top 5 below is I start with Schwab. I do like John Watanabe. I also like Van Rooyen. The next guy that I'm going a little against the grain, he's popped out of nowhere this year, and I like to stay with that type of form. It's Sean Norris. This guy has been playing around the world. What do you think about him?
So that is a guy that I also have interest in. Got some exposure to him. You're not going to need much. Someone that I've targeted in Europe a bit, another South African, was really good in Abu Dhabi. 6,300. I think the price is good.
Yeah.
Lorenzo Vera is right there at 64. You mentioned him for SuperDraft. He has some appeal. I don't mind that. I think they're all going to be not popular, but Sean Norris is a true 1%er in this field.
He is. And that's the thing. I'd rather take Sean Norris, who's played good. And even when he played in the Zozo, when he came in, I think in like 51st, he scored 67 DraftKings points, which for that tournament, it was fine. If you paired him with Tiger, he really helped you out. So I like Sean Norris over Carlos Ortiz this week. I think it's a really good pivot. You're saving a little bit of money as well. The next guy I want to talk about, Justin Harding. If you guys want to get interested in him, he is the European Tour version of Jordan Spieth. But when I say European Tour version, meaning he's not nearly as good as Jordan Spieth at anything, but all he does is putt. And he gets real hot with a putter at times. 6,200. Yeah, I'd rather go to Sean Norris there. The last guy is my creative player that I want to talk about before we go into fantasy draft. We'll do our hot takes, and then we'll do our super draft lineup construction. So Zach Murray, 22-year-old out of Australia. He's playing on the Australia-Asia Order of Merit. Came in the top 2 last year. That's who he's here. But he's in a good run of form. 15th at the Vic Open against an okay field, pretty poor. But 21st at Abu Dhabi. So that was a pretty good field there. Young guy, 22 years old, min price on both sites. I'll have a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that the no cut, I'm okay maybe having a guy that has a chance to break out this week. To have a chance to put himself on the map, at least in terms of global golf.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. I'll go Xander Lombard if I had to at the min. But yeah, I do want to mention
I should do the min price bargain.
My creative player. The problem is he's not that cheap. So to tell you the truth, this is really if someone reserved for like a large field tournament.
Yep.
It's Lucas Hebert, who's an Australian playing really well. He won in Dubai, followed up with the 27th in Saudi Arabia, then whatever the last tournament he played in, he came in 12th. But this is someone he can get really hot with the putter. He's got some pedigree over in Europe. Again, a 1%er. I think these are large field tournament plays. And outside of that, there's not much to really discuss.
Yeah, and if you're just looking to know who these players are, I'll throw out you. Ryan Fox played in that same tournament that Lucas Herbert did and came in second. Ryan Fox is a bomber, known as a bomber over there. So if you like that angle that bombers are going to just play better here, Ryan Fox maybe can make 1 or 2 of your lineups if you're a GPP player. So, all right, let's transition and look at super drafts here. Contest this week, like I said. It is a 10K guaranteed, 2K to first. If you, again, we told you about the promo that we have going on. Of course, using promo code AWESOME10, you're going to get a free $10. And of course, if you deposit more than 10, you're going to get 20, and more than 100, you are going to get $30 free. So let's take a look. We'll start with sorting by the multiplier. So Ben and I just talked about a lot of these guys. If you want to get crazy, like I said, this might not be a bad spot to use that Zach Murray guy. He's that 1.4 multiplier, but so is Lucas Herbert. So when we use Lucas Herbert, there's also another guy that Osmo is ranking that are free this week for SuperDraft. He has Mike Lorenzo Vera as the best value to do. So when we're building out a lineup, here's where I'd say to you, okay, maybe you want to pick. We talked about Kurt Kitayama a lot. You know, you and I both like him a lot. So I think at 1.35 multiplier, he's really good. If you want to buy into Scheffler as well, I think this is not a bad core to start with. Here's where I tell you might want to go down to the 1.2, 1.15 range and try and now pick your winner. You know, the last week Adam Scott was 1.2. So here's the 1.1. You know, can we get Matsuyama and Fleetwood, one of those guys to win? I think that's the type of strategy, something like that I do. Sorry, I don't normally like to fill out 6, but anyways, if you see that lineup, feel free to use it if you'd like to. But that's the strategy that I do. I try and fill bulk of my lineup in with 4 guys that are a good multiplier and then get 2 guys that I think can win that have some multiplier effect. So I am going to skip Rory, Thomas, and McIlroy. I'm going to try and use the leverage here and say that, you know what, if they score 90 points, Fleetwood's going to get within 9 total points of McIlroy or the other guys, and my multiplier effect will kick in. So that's the strategy that I use in there. Again, looking to fill at least 3 spots with high multiplier guys. How about you? Any thoughts to that strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because it's not salary, but you still have to kind of conceptually build. You don't want to take 6 guys up top because you're taking the guys up top to win the tournament. That's how they get there. You don't want to take 6 guys at the bottom with a massive multiplier because they're not all going to play well. So it's about finding that blend. That you just talked about. I do want to say real quick, friend of the show, Alex Hahn, asked about Danny Willett. He's someone in that flat 7K range. He's not playing well, but if you want to get away from Scheffler and some of those other possible chalk, he's a wild card that I don't mind. We know that he's found his form after a bad stretch there.
Yeah, and when I watched when the Euro Tour circuit was going on out in Abu Dhabi, he played out there. And it looked like his off-the-tee game wasn't in great shape. It looks like he was a little wayward. Good to see him, even though it was only 2 rounds last week, good to see him, almost gain a stroke there. So that does at least give me a little bit of vote of confidence. But for me, I would rather just go down to Schwab. I think we've seen over the last 52 weeks. Yeah, Schwab has just been a better player. Not that Willett can't beat him this week. It's just Schwab has been a better player over the last year.
All right, hot takes, and then we'll bounce on out of here. Yours is Fleetwood-esque, so take it away.
Yeah, so funny enough, take out next week, the Honda Classic. Fleetwood has come in 2nd place in every single tournament for the next 4 weeks, except for the Honda, where I think he came in tied for 5th last year or something very good. So I'm going over the hump, and maybe I'll use this every year for the next 30 years until he finally does it. Got him winning one of the next 4 weeks. I just think it happens.
It's going to happen eventually. I mean, he's too good not to win. Been so close.
Oh, wait. I got a second. Can I give a second part to it? He's not in this field. But after Fleetwood wins, Finau's winning within the next 5 weeks.
Oh, wow. So they're all going to win.
Yeah. Whenever Fleetwood wins, if it's in 4 weeks or it's the Masters.
Should have went to Puerto Rico.
Yeah. The double Fs are going to win within very short order of each other.
Well, we'll see. My hot take is going to be pretty egregious. I got a lot of horses to cash this, but they're all pretty bad players. I'm going to say that a South African comes in the top 5.
So who do I got? I got Oosthuizen.
We got
Oosthuizen.
Yeah. Who's hurt.
Yep.
Harding. Xander, Sean Norris. So it's a lot of flyers in the 6K range.
Wait, and Van Rooyen your lineup. Don't forget about Van Rooyen your lineup last week.
There you go.
Yep.
It's going to take a lot for one of them if it's not Usti. But I do think of all these guys, most of them, yes, they're going to play bad, but they all have individual skill sets, whether it's Harding with the putter, EVR with the irons, that I think if you get them on the right week, you could see an explosion. So I do think there are some South African flyers that I do like. Oh, yeah, Grace is here.
Oh yeah, Grace. Yeah, we forgot about Grace.
All
right. So is there one? I just want to dig real quick on that. Is there one other than Louie that you'd say, you know what, in the top 20 markets, because all those guys are long except for Grace. Any of those guys that you actually have targeted in the betting market or in subsequently DFS a little bit more than the others?
So it'd be EVR.
Yeah.
He's someone I feel pretty confident can handle it. Xander Lombard. That's
Xander Lombard, not Schauffele. Yeah.
The better Xander, as I call him. He can handle himself, but you're talking a massive risk there. EVR is someone I feel pretty confident plays at least decent. So there you go. That is a hot take. That's what we're about on this show. I do want to say real quick, chat, you guys obviously are the best. We got a lot of golf coming up. We're gonna be doing more and more. I know me and Jason have been talking. We have some exciting things coming out. If you can hit the like button, it does a huge plus for the company and for the show. We want to keep it in front of the paywall and we want to keep you guys happy. Any final thoughts before we bounce on out of here?
The Florida swing starts next week. The only thing I'm gonna say is our Thursday mornings just got much earlier, and enjoy the 12 o'clock clock tomorrow because we go to 6:45 next week.
Good, I like that.
And 6:45 golf too, right? And on PGA Tour Live, yeah, I love it.
You can be toast before you have breakfast when your guys in the water with that gators, as mine frequently are. At Honda, it can get a little dangerous, but we're going to bounce on out of here, as we say every week. Thanks to SuperDraft. Thanks for you guys. Good luck. If you have any questions, find us in Slack, find us on Twitter, and we'll be back next week for the Florida swing. Good luck, everyone.